Welcome to this week's Mission Compass, your guide to the Great Commission. Have you done a mental health check lately? Well, today's the day. Allan Gallant, founder, director of Agora Ministries, joins us. They've got a conference going on, actually September 23rd, all about mental health and suicide. Have you thought about this? Your neighbors, your kids, what's going on? We've got to think about these things and address these things in the church. Allan at Agora has resources for us, so stay tuned, settle in, get the resources you need. Talking about resources, Sala joins us again. She's got resources from God's Word with the Reset devotional. We got an update from Galcom, so here we go. Mission Compass, coming your way.
Welcome to Galcom's Mission Compass podcast. To learn more about Galcom and our guests today, visit galcom.org.
There's nothing more satisfying than knowing that you're being productive in God's kingdom and making a difference in the hearts and lives of others.
Hello, friend. Welcome to Galcom's Mission Compass, your guide to the Great Commission. I'm Ron Harris. On today's Mission Compass, we want to update you on what Galcom is doing around the world and also connect with a ministry partner who, like Galcom, is making waves. Where do you fit in the Great Commission? Well, keep listening. We may have an answer for you. And here's your host, Galcom's Tim Whitehead.
Well, thank you, Ron. Yes, friends, a very quick update from us here at Galcom. Number one, Al White, our missions team lead, and his group have been really busy over the last little while. Francis Droge just completed a solar array for a station we built last year in Maralal, Kenya, for the Samburu people. We were celebrating this great station that we put in there, but we realized diesel generators wasn't the best way to keep them on the air. And so Francis and the team went back and visit our social media, visit our Facebook page, visit our Instagram, and you'll see pictures of the solar panels and the station there in Maralal, Kenya. And in between that, I don't know how Francis did it, but he got up to Kapaweta, South Sudan, scouting there, putting in the anchors for the tower. So it's lots of work going on in Africa right now for broadcasting. So it's really exciting. And then Al's trying to get back up in just the next couple of days, back up to Waskaganish, Quebec. If you remember, about a month ago, Al was on the program talking about how he and Hank, one of our volunteers, tried to get up there and were turned back by wildfires. But really saw God's hand in what happened and who the people they met there, the Christians they met in the town that they were stopped in Amos, Quebec. And so please be praying that this time they'll actually be able to get up there, pour the concrete pad to put a tower in so we can complete the radio station installation in Waskaganish, Quebec. So that's all that's going on here for our outreach, putting in stations and other things going on. But we have an opportunity for you to partner with us. Every year, we have what we call our Partner Appreciation Banquet, where we invite all of our friends locally to come and have dinner with us. So if you are anywhere near the Hamilton area, greater Hamilton area, so hey, listeners on WDCX and Faith FM Kitchener and Woodstock and so on, well, maybe Woodstock's a bit of a drive, but the meal's worth it. Francis will be joining us, and we're going to be raising funds for a project that we're doing with New Life Prison Ministries right here in Canada. Nadia Zaverzniak, the director of New Life, is going to be joining us. We're going to have a wonderful time of fellowship. We want to say thank you to all of you that have been praying for us and giving towards our work, as well as raising funds for the next project, getting audio Bibles into the hands of prisoners that are doing correspondence courses with New Life Prison Ministry. And Nadia's going to tell us all about it. So book your calendar now, October 13th, here in Hamilton, not too far from our office. For more information, visit our website, galcom.org, and pencil in, again, if you're in the area, October the 13th, Friday, October the 13th. I know most of you, maybe you're going to go down to Sturgis or something like that on your motorcycles or Port Dover, but hey, get on your motorcycle, drive here to Hamilton, and celebrate what God is doing through the ministry at Galcom. Coming up on our program today, Sala is going to share from God's Word, get us grounded, get us reset. Stan Jeter's got a great story for us and more instructions on how to use our cell phones to be a witness for Christ. And then, here at Galcom, we love high-tech stuff. Cutting-edge technology, radio, computer, IT. Have we got a guest for you? Brian Dick of Appropriate Technologies is going to join us doing super crazy high-tech stuff. Well, not really. You know, when someone lives rurally, when they got to tell you where they live by telling you how far they are from another city. Brian's about an hour and a half north of Winnipeg, Manitoba, and he is serving God there and serving in South Sudan with the skills, abilities, education, experience that God has given him. Ron, you mentioned about how do we get involved? Maybe an opportunity for our friends listening to get involved. Brian has an opportunity. If you're mechanical, if you're a farmer, if you've got a hands-on ability, this is the guy that you need to listen to. So don't change that dial. Stay locked on here to the Mission Compass and find out where you fit in the Great Commission. And now, to start us off, Bonnie Sala.
As he walked the streets of the city, the prostitutes, pimps, runaways, drug addicts, and hustlers he saw filled his heart with anguish. I'm Bonnie Sala with Reset. All true passion of life comes out of anguish, David Wilkerson said, years after founding an international drug rehabilitation program. Teen Challenge has one of the highest success rates anywhere in the world. Wilkerson continued, "Search the scriptures, and you'll find that when God determined to recover a ruined situation, he would share his own anguish for what God saw happening. He would find a praying man, and he would take that man and literally baptize him in anguish." Hearing that the capital of his homeland was in ruins, the prophet Nehemiah of the Bible said, "When I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven." In Nehemiah, God found a man who would not just have a flash of emotion, some great burst of concern, and then let it die. Anguish comes from deep pain and sorrow about the conditions within or around you, expressing the agony of God's heart over our brokenness. Satan, warned Wilkerson, would like nothing more than for followers of Jesus to stop fighting, stop laboring in prayer, stop weeping before God. There's a great difference between anguish and concern. We have become blind to lukewarmness. You can sit and watch television and your family go to hell. Does your heart or the heart of one you love lay in ruins today? Restoration begins with prayer, and a true life of prayer begins at the place of anguish. I'm Bonnie Sala with Reset. To hear this again, read or share this, or to find more resources like this, visit guidelines.org.
Well, friend, we want to encourage you to tell God's story, to be a witness of what he's done in your life. And to help us do that, Stan Jeter of the Global News Alliance has been joining us each month, sharing a story that he's captured, or one of the other partners from the GNA has captured, and sharing how we can join too. Stan, great to have you back.
Thanks, Tim. It's always good to be with you and to tell the stories that are important for us to know, because we don't see them in the evening news or whatever news outlets we have. These are stories of God's work around the world, and they really should be front and center for Christians.
Amen. And you have one, though, that's not all good news on the top. So tell us the story from GNA this month.
Yes, wildfires have been causing devastation and taking lives and taking homes and properties in Canada and the U.S. and in different parts of the world. And it seems to be a phenomenon that a lot of people link to global warming. Whatever the cause, it is disaster city. However, the good news among all of these bad news items, the good news is that in every case, as far as we know, in every case, there are Christians that get involved, church members that rush to the scene to help survivors, to help them recover, to provide for their immediate needs, to help them long-term to rebuild. This is the good part of the news that's otherwise bad. And one of the recent fires happened in Maui in Hawaii. It's the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century. It stunned Hawaii and the nation, and the blaze was propelled by hurricane winds. There was a hurricane nearby, and the blaze just roared through a historic town of Lahaina on the island of Maui, a favorite tourist destination. In fact, my son's wife's parents were actually there in a nearby hotel, and they had to shelter in place until the fire was over and they could fly out. And fortunately, nothing happened to them, but there are a lot of people that perished in the fire. In fact, as we speak, there's slightly over 100, but the number could go up. We contacted one of the Christian relief organizations working with survivors in Maui. And this is the story. It's Crisis Response International, a small group that works with a lot of other groups to bring relief to survivors.
Many of those who escaped the Maui wildfires have nothing to return to. Government and different groups are hard at work, but it's the response of the Hawaiian people themselves that has surprised even veteran crisis responders like Sean Malone, founder of Crisis Response International.
People rose up. The local response of the Hawaiian people, the Hawaiian church, and people from surrounding islands was so great. It really elongated what we call the heroic phase. So after that initial shock phase, you have this heroic phase. Some people say it's the honeymoon phase. And what that means is, hey, we're going to get this done. We're going to fix this and we're going to be back to normal as soon as possible. And all of this adrenaline and compassion, which is really good.
But as the weeks go on, some of the local response is slowing down.
They're exhausted. They begin to hit the wall. And now, the local church response and then, relief groups staying longer term is really important.
Malone noticed one need that was overlooked.
And what we didn't see is we didn't see people getting debriefed or letting people just tell their story. And so we set up a talk story tent. And really, that's full of our chaplains who are trained to be able to just listen and give appropriate feedback and say the right things. And so we've done a lot of that. We're doing haircuts as well. You wouldn't think like that's a top of the list need, but it's a way to engage with people. People become vulnerable when they're sitting in a chair getting a haircut and they open up their heart and we begin to talk story with them. We've seen that to be very fruitful.
For the global church community, Malone has this request.
I would say this to anybody who's praying for this response, that the church and the responders and the people who are coming in to assist would be attuned not only to God's heart and God's plans and purposes for the land, but that they would be attuned to the heart cry of the Hawaiian people.
And as more deaths are confirmed in the days ahead,
that's going to be a really critical time for the church to be praying, even as it drifts out of the news. And really a time for the local church and believers to be able to walk alongside this community.
Recovery and healing for this devastated Hawaiian community will take years. Stan Jeter, Global News Alliance.
Wow. Friends, to see the visuals for this, visit gna.news. And Stan, you've done this in video form. You can see the destruction, but you can see the people helping. Loading up water and doing those haircuts and counseling people. So friends, I want to encourage you, visit GNA News, see the video there of the story you just heard, but also Stan, you have tips for people so they can tell the story too. Real quick, do you have a short tip you can give us? How do we capture God's story and share it?
Absolutely. Here's my tip for the day. Try to make it as visual as you can. I like to watch movies without the sound sometimes when I'm on an airplane or something, to see if I can figure out the plot of the story, what's happening. Other people should be able to figure out your stories to some degree just by watching the visuals. Watch a story with the audio turned off, and you should be able to shoot sequences that explain visually what's going on. The visuals are terribly important. So is the audio, of course. So I want to encourage you to make sure that the story is as visual as possible.
We radio guys joke that TV is just radio with some pictures, but it's not. The pictures need to tell a story. Tell God's story well. Visit gna.news for more help. Thank you, Stan.
My pleasure.
Stories can move us emotionally. They bring us into a world of joy and sadness. Stories help us ask how we would react if we were there. Galcom International presents Stories of the Great Commission.
The Trash Mountain, the family, they are from somewhere, they live around the Trash Mountain. They get up at night, they use a flashlight on their head. And at night, hundreds of flashlights on the Trash Mountain because they pick up the garbage at night. It's more cooler and more easier for them. So it's very sad to hear that, but we are blessed to be with them and to share them the love of God and give them something that we can give. So it's a blessing for them.
Discover the greatest challenge ever given to man, the Great Commission. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every living creature. Learn more at galcom.org, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Galcom International. Make waves.
You may be listening to us on your computer, But you can also find us on your smartphone using Spotify, iTunes, or other streaming platforms. Just go to galcom.org and choose your favorite. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and share our podcast.
Well, friends, as promised off the top of the program, super high-tech, cutting-edge missions coming your way from Appropriate Technologies, their founder-director, Brian Dick. Brian, thank you for joining us here on the Mission Compass.
Thank you, Tim. It's an honor to be on your program.
A little bit more of a preface here. When we first started our program, it was very self-serving. We wanted to raise money and awareness for Galcom, our radio work. And I met a guy at Mission Fest Vancouver who was repairing wheelchairs for a ministry in South America. And I thought, people need to know what he's doing. A great impact. And it was missions. And when I was introduced to Appropriate Technology, I thought, oh, people need to know what you're doing because it's culturally appropriate, contextualized. It's absolutely the perfect answer for your context. So tell us about Appropriate Technologies and what you're doing and where.
Okay, so I work in South Sudan, or at least that's sort of the first missionary opportunity or missions opportunity that I have. Well, I'm a farmer by trade. So we sold a farm. We had farmed for 20 years or so and sold it about 3 years ago. And knowing that this was what we were supposed to do, we had actually begun in 2015 with Kel Bombay. I was a man on the ground there. I was there for a total of 9 months together with my wife and my youngest son at the farm in Kajukeji. So we had a 2-year commitment there that was interrupted by the war of 2016. And that ended that opportunity ultimately. So as a result of that, I just thought, I really wanted to be able to see if there was an entry point for the subsistence farmer to have some motorized, mechanized piece of equipment. John Deere's and Massey Ferguson's are just out of reach, just plain out of reach. And the after-sales support isn't there. So ongoing
No dealership in Kajukeji?
Yeah, well, no, there is one south of in Uganda. But,
right.
Those kind of logistics are just too insurmountable to be successful with. I just wanted to see, could we build something, So I just went online and just typed in homemade tractor just to see what there was. Sure enough, Southeast Asia, India, China, they're doing it. Guys they're coming up with their own DIY solutions to labor, and they're getting her done, on a appropriate technology level. So I thought, hey, this is something we could do. As a farmer in Canada, you also have to be a fixer. So I was very comfortable with the idea of just starting something out. We started out with a walking machine. We've now decided to move up to a riding tractor. It's a little bit more money, but we think that the market appeal will be much better. And so this is kind of a business as mission venture.
Now, I know this is radio, and I don't know how to describe this thing, this tractor. A couple of wheels on the front there, bigger wheels, a tiny little engine. It looks like it's from like a lawnmower.
Right. That's it.
Is it? Okay. And then...
Well, it's a horizontal shaft engine, but it's about that lawnmower size, about a 5 or 6 horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stationary engine.
And then the seat, the wheel, and that's about it. And some pretty heavy duty looking framework there. So to your point, this is appropriate technology for this level of farming. And I mean, you said you only started this 2015, 2016, but these look like they're going to last forever.
Well, really, where the money is in the frame. The engine, when it blows, and it will blow with hours of use, is not a total game ender. Like it doesn't, it's not game over. It's a few $100s, you bolt on a new engine, you get out your paintbrush and you slap a new coat of paint, and it's like having a brand new tractor. Yeah. It's just that simple.
So how many do you have deployed now in South Sudan?
Well, we built our first prototype during COVID in Manitoba, where I live. And then we built the first prototype in Juba, South Sudan in 2022. So I was there for 7 months, and we got her built and have done some testing already. Presently, the limiting factor is when I'm not there, things sort of grind to a halt. So
this is brand new, 2022. Like this is like the beginning of a new ministry.
Yeah. So in 2017, I built my first walking tractor in my shop on the farm when we still had the farm. And I just started going around. I had it loaded in the back of my pickup and would go talk to people and say, hey, what do you think? Is this something you might consider getting behind? And so the believability factor has definitely improved. And God has just, as you saw from the video on our website, God just brought people who were really capable and one of them being a welding shop owner. So what you see in that simple machine is 25 years of welding shop experience. And, we got it done right. And we have a high degree of confidence that this little tractor can really do something.
Yeah, since I didn't do a very good job describing it, visit appropriatetechnologies.ca. Appropriatetechnologies.ca. You can see the pictures, see the video of it being assembled. You can get a really good idea of it in action. There's some nice video of you plowing some fields there. So you're saying that you built one in Juba. Is the desire then to build them in country, not made in Canada and shipped over?
Yeah, that's right. Is to build them in country. And, as people in the developing world find out to us, to the degree that we are available, we would like to be able to go show them our design and help them set up. Some people have urged me to patent this design, but, I don't really think patent laws mean much in some of these rogue countries.
They don't, trust me.
And it's simple enough. The patent laws in Canada are such that you make one minor variation on the thing and you've got your own thing. So, that doesn't really mean much. If it really turns out to be as useful as we hope it will, the happiest moment of my life would be when somebody else steals my technology and just runs away with it. Then I feel like I've accomplished something.
Let's talk a little bit about South Sudan. We do a lot of work in radio in South Sudan. We've talked with our partners at Every Village, Andrew Brown and others, William Levi, all these radio guys doing evangelism. But there is still a huge, huge need for the basics in South Sudan. There's very little infrastructure. There's no electricity running to these villages. So tell me about your experience in Kajukeji. Paint the picture for us. How much in need are these people of this tool, this simple tractor?
Their alternative to this would be a garden hoe. That's the single tool. It's very effective, almost never breaks down. But it's a couple hours of working with that and you need a break. People are struggling just to meet their food needs through the dry season. Food security is always a risk there. And Kajukeji is one of the best growing areas that there is. It's relatively fertile, although you do have to take care of the soil. And so part of what we do is teach best practices too, because a lot of times they're not seeing two crop potential realized, because they just don't get to it early enough, and they're not seeing the yield potential that they could.
You mentioned the name Cal Bombay, and my first experience in overseas missions was traveling with Cal to South Sudan, and I actually went to Kajukeji. Crossroads Ministry, 100 Huntley Street, had donated some Massey Ferguson tractors, and we were there.
Right.
I was there to audit the project, and we saw one of the first yields. It might have been the very first. And corn taller than, 2 feet taller than me. And as you said, fertile land, and it's the potential. But, those, as you said, the Masseys, there's no dealer. They break down. They can't care for them. You've got a solution that can put food in people's bellies, but we need to show the love of Jesus Christ with our hands. So what's the opportunity for our friend listening to get involved? So someone's saying, I'm a farmer. I know exactly what he's talking about. I can help. What's the next step? It
is our aspiration to be able to have guys come out, maybe just for sort of a discovery time, even if it's just a couple of weeks, to have boots on the ground there, see what we're doing, see what the need is and what the opportunities are, and for them to see themselves, in that. I talk specifically to those guys, farmers or other small business owners or whatever, who at my stage of life, I'm 58 years old, they're beginning to decide, okay, am I going to Phoenix to play golf 3 days a week during the winter, or am I going down to Puerto Vallarta or Mazatlan or whatever, And I'm saying, dude, I've got something better for you. Just coming with us, even if just dangle your toe in the water, see what it's like for a couple of weeks and see if you couldn't see yourself here. Those are the people I'm after. They might be in a place where they are financially independent. They can do that. Or, hey, they've got their church fellowships and they would get behind them. We can have a conversation about anything. So friends, if you are at that stage of life, as Brian just said, there's a book out there, I think it's called From Success to Significance, kind of that second half of life. What do I do now? My kids are through school, and as you said, you're looking at where you're retiring to. You know what? South Sudan is beautiful. It really is. And the mangoes, the fresh pineapple, the potential there. So it is beautiful country. And you can serve, you can meet a very practical need and use the gifts and abilities, the education and experience God has given you to make disciples. And that's really the heart of it, though, isn't it, Brian? The end isn't just the tractor. Absolutely not. That little video, as the kind of the way that it caps off, is, when we think about plowing soil, really what we're doing is, we're trying to turn the fallow ground in the human heart. Maybe another way to say it is just to soften the heart. Jesus was hard on the Pharisees because of the hardness of their heart. And it's the kindness of God that leads us to repentance, right? And so this is a real practical way of trying to meet that.
Amen. Friends, let's show kindness. Let's be the hands and feet of Christ. Let's go and come alongside Brian. Get these tractors in the hands of people that need them here in South Sudan, and all of the potential. I kept on talking about potential of the farms. There's the potential of the nation as well, and people's hearts when they turn to Christ. AppropriateTechnologies.ca. All of their information is there. The contact information, the videos, the pictures. You get a real idea of what they're doing to meet this need, and a nice biography there about you, Brian, and your wife, Ruth, and how God specifically called you into this. Friends, we're all called. We're all called to be a witness. We're all called to go into all the world and make disciples. Brian, I love the way you're doing it. And friends, if you want to join them, AppropriateTechnologies.ca. Brian, thank you so much for joining us here on the Mission Compass.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim. It was a real pleasure.
Well, friend, we're at the end of our program today. You've been listening to Galcom's Mission Compass, your guide to the Great Commission. There are many ways to partner with us. To find out more, visit our website at galcom.org. That's Galcom, spelled GALCOM.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm Ron Harris. Thanks for joining us today on Mission Compass, a radio ministry of Galcom International.
If you enjoyed this podcast, we upload a new episode every Monday. You can also find us on the radio or other streaming platforms. We have a list on our website. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and share our podcast. Please rate this episode and leave a review. We would love to hear back from you. And we also want to know where you're listening from. So click Mission Compass on our website, tell us, and we'll send you Galcom's devotional, 30 Days of Faith.